Welcome to the first ever Scalefusion Partner Podcast, where we're featuring insights from our Scalefusion ecosystem partners. My name is Steve Gohl. I'm Director of Strategic Partnerships for Scalefusion for North America. Today, I have with me Tony Ross, who is CEO and President of Mobilfy. Tony, welcome.
Steve, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So this is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I've got
my first podcast, by the way. This is my first
podcast. The first of many. You're going to be a featured guest on lots of them after this. So I've got the really tough question to kick this off for you. So, and I didn't prep you for this, so you don't know what's coming. But the audience needs to know, what, in your opinion, is the best pizza out there? The favorite pizza in the world? Could be toppings, could be style. Like, what do you say?
So for me, straight out of Brooklyn, born and raised, Spumoni Gardens, Sicilian style pizza, thick crust, thick fat pizza, just delicious, amazing. So that's my go-to, and I'll stick with that. But
that sounds great, and it's getting near lunchtime, so you're gonna make me really hungry. But all right, we want to kick it off into kind of the meat of the discussion today. So tell us about Mobilfy. Tell us who you guys are, what you do, who you serve, what makes you guys unique.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mobilfy is a primary partner for B2B, for the B2B ecosystem. So historically, we're all from the telecom business, but we're from retail, distribution, wholesale, prepaid, postpaid, and all different parts of this industry. Some of us are from B2B, but I myself was absolutely not. Been in this business since paging, been in this business through retail, through wholesale, distribution, and slid over to this side. Fourth quarter of 2019 was the first time I was exposed to this industry, and it was just amazing to see the opportunity, to see the growth, to see that where it could go in the next 4 or 5 years was my thought then. And here we are years later, and we still haven't scratched the surface, I don't believe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge market. Obviously, who would you say your primary target customer? Who do you serve? Like, we're in the ecosystem as we're kind of connecting all the dots on how everybody works together. Where would you put you guys?
So we're very careful with just working with partners. So we never sell direct. We have some agents that we work with that come in and they sell direct, or they provide a product or solution for our direct partners on the carrier side. So our Mobilfy expert team, they're just Mobilfy partner experts, all of us. So our sales team is comprised of ex-CEOs, VPs. There's no titles as far as traditional corporate structure. It's just a bunch of leaders that are in their own right leaders and entrepreneurs that came to Mobilfy to work with partners. So you can work at Mobilfy and be a partner representative working with a sub agent, because that's a partner who has X amount of employees or has X amount of distribution model, or you could be working with a T-Mobile for business rep, who has a ton of opportunity, but not enough products or solutions or support to close those deals. So it comes to a channel like this. So what we are is just kind of like that adhesive who kind of puts these things together, right? Whether it's you guys at Scalefusion, or some of the other OEMs and providers that we represent.
Nice. It sounds like you're really helping to streamline the sales process for your partners. How have you seen Scalefusion fit into that mix? I mean, when you guys, I know you guys have been working with us for quite a while now, and when you're positioning that with your partners, how has the experience been? How's that helped you close more deals, or really help those carrier teams that you talked about?
There it goes, right? Here's where we promote Scalefusion. No problem. That's okay. I'm really happy to do so because I'll be honest, coming into this industry and learning these different parts of the business, where I think intellectually I understood that there was this type of business on the other side of the wall, right, from retail to business, but actually seeing it and actually walking through it was a whole nother experience. And Scale Fusion was probably the catalyst for that creativity for me, where you just understood that, it really changes the experience of a device. I tell our partners today, whether it's a sub agent that has sales teams that go out and knock on doors, or it's a carrier partner at T-Mobile or US Cellular, one of the companies we represent. If you're deploying a mobile device today and you don't have an MDM, now, no offense, but any MDM, but ideally Scalefusion, then you're not deploying a business device or a business solution. You're deploying a consumer version of a product that they can go into any bodega, any grocery store across America and just get that. So it really is a differentiator, and it's amazing what your solution does. And what baffles me the most is how unknown it still is today. 2023, I feel like it's just an obvious thing for us, and that's probably your biggest obstacle, is your sales makers and partners just take it for granted and assume everyone knows it, but no one wants it, or who's choosing it, or how do we push it? We just wait to be asked. But you'd be surprised, and one of the differentiators for us, you asked me this question, I'll answer, is we actually rep it, right? We pitch it, we talk about it, because if you don't, you're really surprised to just see. Today, I see SMB reps, their eyes light up. And you could do what? To lock down their device? I'm like, yeah, it's like $1.50 a month. It's not a big deal. It takes about 5 minutes to set up, and your customer will have a whole nother experience.
Yeah. So could you elaborate on that a little bit? Obviously, we're talking about the benefits to the customer, or benefits to the sales maker, offering a complete solution, which, like you said, can be a foreign concept sometimes. I mean, obviously, that's the ideal world. We want to, provide a whole solution. That's bringing pieces from a lot of different areas. What's that look like, or what's your experience been, or response from end user customers that got to that you guys have delivered that full solution to, and how does that impact the long-term business of your partners?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is clearly a value-added experience for a business customer. Now, I don't care if you're a landscaping business that just has 4 devices, or you're an enterprise customer with 4,000 devices. When you understand and you give that customer the ability to control their usage, to control their devices, to control their employee experience, to easily deploy, to easily update and manage devices with a click of a button from one admin site, it really changes the game. And that value add, I've noticed, has created sticky relationships for me, just as a selling partner. Until today, I have direct customers that we've been privileged to partner on with T-Mobile or US Cellular, and these customers come back to us, right? To us directly, because they're not quite realizing who, what, when, where, but they do know the device is deployed for Mobilfy, and they do know that they were provisioned and set up with this solution that is mystical to them in some ways, and then, so they come back to us. So I think it creates more stickiness than anything else. To be honest, I think even reduction in prices and playing that price war, and I know some of the carriers get really creative and really aggressive at the end of the quarter when they can't hit numbers, and it's all of a sudden it's like $600 for 50 lines or something like that, because they really kind of go bananas with it, and that doesn't create sticky customers. That doesn't create the same experience with the customers this does. That typically has to happen because the perceived value is not there, right? So then the only last option is to reduce your cost price and really, really undercut your pricing for your service, or increase your value, which is what we like to do with Scalefusion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, a lot of times it's the education piece. So some of these small and medium-sized businesses, when you educate them on the fact that 95% of the cyber attacks that are happening, the most vulnerable piece of that is the endpoint, that smartphone. So how do you begin to secure that and take the steps to actually put password policies in place and set some restrictions on possibly how an employee could use it? Take the steps to begin to secure that device. Otherwise, They're just open to anything, right?
No, 100%. So yeah, I mean, from the most technical extreme use cases, it makes sense, right? And kind of to come a little full circle to the early on conversations, one of the differentiators I think for me and Mobilfy were what some would perceive as a weakness early on in our launch, not being from the B2B industry. I think that was our secret sauce, right? We didn't have a jaded opinion. We didn't have any sort of preconceived opinion or notion of how this works or how this looks. So kind of like a child seeing like a theme park for the first time, we were just in awe and just, wow, mesmerized with what could happen. So yeah, the most complicated things that I think you guys originally designed this product and solution for and think innately of when you think of the MDM solution was the last that we thought of, right? We just thought of the most obvious, right? I mean, who doesn't have a little bit of a control issue? What average human being doesn't want to control? So just from an SMB perspective, just being able to bang on doors for small opportunities, but be able to lead with that and tap into that human instinct. Hey, I know you like controlling stuff. We all do. You can control your devices tomorrow. You can control what apps your employees are on. You can control what time that they're on their apps. You could get reports, usage reports, GPS tracking, all in one, and being able to tap into that most simplest use case, the most simplest logic is something that I was also very surprised to see not your average sales organization was utilizing Scalefusion for. So that's one of the differentiators that we've uncovered, right? A pizzeria wants to control his devices, right? My pizzeria in Brooklyn, Spumoni Gardens, would love to control all his drivers as they go out. And in fact, we've deployed things for him. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And I'm sure you get this use case a lot too. But speaking to your point of sometimes we think of all the cool things you can do with an MDM like Scalefusion and all the reasons that you want to work with us and partner with us. But sometimes it literally comes down to, I want to be able to use this device when my employee left and I didn't know his password. And now I've got $1,000 device, an iPhone sitting on my desk that I can't use, I can't access because I didn't have password policy management on it. We hear that a lot, just starting from that. What's the most basic use case that's important to that business? Sometimes it's just that. I want to make sure I can repurpose this device if an employee leaves.
Spot on. Being able to have that type of control and flexibility or comfort in knowing that the device is essentially a brick for an employee who leaves with your product, right? With your asset. First of all, it drastically reduces, almost removes that obstacle, right? Because it makes sense. Even if I'm an employee and you owe me just $5, that's worth more than this device is now to me. So that helps. And that also, I've also noticed that also made it more, look, when you're out there and you're pounding the streets and you work for T-Mobile, you work for US Cellular, and you're up against this all day, and you're pitching and pitching and pitching, and you're trying to close new logos. You're trying to bat out every obstacle, every rebuttal that the customer has, every false sense of why they can't shift over, why they don't want to give every employee devices, right? So given our partners, whether it's our sub-agents or our partner teaming friends, right, the ability to just kind of chop away all of these consumer obstacles also helps them close deals. And we've noticed that we've gotten SMB customers to take more devices than they typically would because of that comfort. Hey, these devices will always be yours. You don't have to worry about any of your team taking your devices. They can't. It's useless to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we're kind of starting to wrap this up a little bit, I wanted to ask you just a couple more questions. So we've already talked about what you guys do, why you're unique, who you serve as your partners. We've talked about the benefits to the customer of things, working with Mobilfy and Scalefusion. One question I wanted to ask you, and this is kind of a selfish question because it's my podcast, but you have a lot of options. I mean, we know partners have a lot of options on who they choose to partner with from an NDM perspective. It's a, let's just face it, it's a crowded environment. There's a lot of players out there. Um, why why do you choose Scalefusion, and why do you continue to work with us? I mean, I'd love to get your insights on
Yeah, honestly, I don't know why. Nah, I'm only kidding.
that.
I'll tell you why, and this is the easiest answer. Easiest. I mean, you guys are the best to work with. And let me elaborate further. That's too basic of an answer, right? I've gotten on conversations with your team for small opportunities or large opportunities, and we've customized countless deployments specific to the customer needs. Now, I am also a partner with Samsung Knox. I am also a partner with MOS 360. I do not sell them, and that those products, I'm sorry if they're watching, but those products are on our paper for absolute necessity, right? Customer demands it. They must have it because it's part of their current ecosystem. We have no choice. Can't win them over otherwise. Nothing we can do to flip them. I can't lose the deal, right? So I do have those products there. But, I mean, God forbid we needed customization, or we needed them to actually collaborate and get on a call with one of our T-Mobile partners and their enterprise or gov or SMB customer. It's almost impossible. And another thing I realized, this ecosystem is so congested that there's so much noise, right? You have a sales engineer on a carrier side that believes it should or could do this. You have a IT manager on the customer side also on that same call saying, I believe and I think it should be doing this. And then we have our operations team that says, well, I think we could and should do this. Some of these calls are completely unproductive, a mess, and actually loses the sale. Unless you actually have the solution provider on there who is saying, no, we will and we could do this, right? It's a lot of people trying to posture and say what they think it could happen and how it should happen. So working with Scalefusion has been phenomenal, not only to reactively get on calls and help us close deals that are sometimes complex, and sometimes the customer just wants to hear from the provider themselves, and other times create opportunities, which is what I like best, right? Where we don't go on the defense. It's not just, okay, we have an opportunity, let's cater to this, but we go into offense. And we collaborate with Scalefusion in many of instances where we provoke a product or solution or opportunity and give that ammunition to arm as many salespeople as possible to go out and capture new logos, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we have this thing up now at our Mobilfy 360 where we said, hey, let's help these sales reps pitch this. Right? Let's help these sales reps go out there in the field and not only talk about their phenomenal networks, their rate plans, their amazing culture and giving back to communities and what donations and who donates to trees and who does what, but also give them a solid product to pitch and close, right? So the Mobilfy 360 protection, it basically talks to SMB enterprise customers and says, hey, protect your device in and out. Right? So Scalefusion can protect your device inside, where you could be PCI compliant, you could be HIPAA compliant, depending on your vertical or your industry, or simply just purge consumer information because it's the right thing to do and you're responsible and your business, or restrict your employees from doing certain things, restrict their camera access, restrict their front camera access, restrict their YouTube usage, whatever it is. Protect your devices inside, and then outside we partnered with 8 Cases, which is ruggedized case provider. So really well quality. It's good. They're nice. So it works well. We've deployed them for the past about 3 years, and pairing them together where you have this Mobilfy 360 inside and out protection has proved to be quite interesting. So we're seeing
that's kind of interesting. You're kind of taking like the physical and the software side, or the virtual, on protection angles and packaging them up together. Is that accurate? I mean, that's what you're saying, kind of putting the case with NDM software with a piece of hardware and positioning it as here's a complete solution to protect your device.
100%. Yeah, and that's kind of that proactive selling of your product that I was just talking about, and that's an example of it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, any last thoughts before we wrap up here today? Any last thoughts you want to share with the audience? And the second part of that is, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, get a hold of Mobilfy, how do they do that?
All right. Well, I'll start with the latter, right? Easy. Tony at mobilfy.com. Tony at mobilfy.com. Yes, my actual name is Tony. I don't know why. My mother named me Tony. It's not Anthony. It's not Antonio. it's not anything else, but it is Tony. Tony at Mobilfy, mobilfy.com. So that's how they would get a hold of me. And no, I mean, I would like to kind of flip it and ask you, what's in store for Scalefusion? How do you elevate Scalefusion to the next phase of its opportunity within its ecosystem? What's in store for all of us by the end of this year with Scalefusion? Anything special?
There's all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff going on, Tony. There's a lot of advancements in integrations and how deep we can go into the technical integrations with a lot of the OEMs we work with, expansion of operating systems. We're really getting into Linux-based operating system support now, which is a big deal. And I think that's going to lead to even more interesting things on the roadmap. Just drop a hint. I mean, I would love to see where we can manage hotspots, mobile hotspots into our platform. That's something that isn't available yet. But I would, that's on my wish list. So that's what I'm pushing our developers towards as well. So those are things that we're always looking at. What does the customer want? Not what do we want to go create some cool feature? What are the customers asking for? What are our partners asking for? Where can we make a difference in how they want to go deploy and manage their devices? And so that's what elevates on my wish list of I want to go do this or support this new device or whatever. So it's a constant effort. It never ends. I mean, we want to make a very simple and powerful, easy to use product. And the second part of that where I get excited is how does that get deployed through our partner network? Because I think every partner has some unique capabilities, which is why it's exciting to talk to you guys about how you are positioned and how you help customers and partners. It's endless. So I'm excited about those two things really. How we elevate our partners and share their value to the end users, as well as all of the advances that we've got coming from a feature and functionality perspective too, from the Scalefusion side.
Exciting stuff. No, absolutely. Getting Scalefusion to load onto different platforms and different devices, I think would be a huge score for us in this ecosystem. So that's exciting to hear. But no, I mean, it's fantastic. Steven, thanks for having me on your first podcast. I feel honored and no, we love this relationship with Scalefusion, and I truly believe that it's just getting started. I do believe that this podcast will be something that we laugh about one day, and how it all started. You remember that podcast? Because we're both aggressive organizations that have a lot of plans to do a lot more. We're never content with what we do. I like the way you guys move, right? You just kind of win a little, and that's nothing. It's like you want to win more and more and more. That's kind of Mobilfy's rhythm. So I feel like, in some weird way, in our ecosystem, what we're doing in the T-Mobile and US Cellular worlds, we're doing the same dance. So it's exciting to have a good partner to dance with.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Tony, for being on. I appreciate it. Everyone listening in for this first podcast, thanks for joining us. Hope it added some value. We're going to be doing one of these every month, so stay tuned for the next one. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.